The U.S. India partnership is one of the most significant alliances of our time, rooted in shared democratic values and strategic interests. Over the years, cooperation in defense, technology, and trade has deepened, benefiting both nations. But under President Trump, the relationship faces a new test. His America First approach scrutinizes every alliance, especially where U.S. interests might be at risk. Now Trump's focus is on India's close military ties with Russia, a legacy of the Cold War that's raising concerns in Washington. The U.S. sees Russia as a strategic rival, and any major defense deal with Moscow is viewed with suspicion. The challenge: can these two democracies reconcile their differences without jeopardizing a partnership vital for Indo-Pacific stability? The stakes are high, economically and strategically. As of August 2025, the world is watching to see how this pivotal moment will shape the future of U.S.-India relations. The flashpoint is India's purchase of Russia's S-400 Triumph air defense system. U.S. law, CAATSA, threatens sanctions on countries buying major Russian arms, aiming to weaken Moscow's defense industry. For Washington, the S-400 deal isn't just about money, it's about security. American officials fear Russian technicians could access sensitive data on U.S. military platforms operated by India. This risks compromising joint operations and technology sharing. The U.S. also worries about the message this sends. Is India truly aligned with American strategic priorities? For India, the S-400 is a practical necessity, not a political statement. Russia has long been its main defense supplier. India's security concerns with China and Pakistan drive its decisions. The dilemma: India's defense needs versus U.S. demands for alignment. Both sides now face a trust deficit that could complicate future cooperation. President Trump's response follows a familiar script. First, tough public statements, signaling U.S. seriousness and putting India on notice. If rhetoric fails, diplomatic pressure ramps up, delayed meetings, stalled cooperation, and linking the S-400 issue to trade or tech access. The ultimate weapon? Tariffs and CAATSA sanctions, potentially targeting Indian entities and escalating to a trade war. Such moves would hurt Indian exporters and risk retaliation, damaging both economies. Each option carries risks. Tough talk may fall flat, pressure can breed resentment, and tariffs could push India closer to Russia or China. The administration must weigh the costs of confrontation against the value of the partnership. The choice Trump makes will define the next chapter in U.S.-India relations. For both countries, the stakes go far beyond a single arms deal. The world is watching for the next move. The U.S. has a long record of using sanctions and economic pressure to influence allies and rivals alike. After India's 1998 nuclear tests, Washington imposed sweeping sanctions, cutting off aid and technology. More recently, Turkey faced harsh penalties for buying the same S-400 system, including expulsion from the F-35 fighter program. The Trump administration's trade war with China showed its willingness to use tariffs as a strategic tool, even at global economic cost. These examples send a clear message: U.S. threats of sanctions are real, not rhetorical. For India, this history is a warning. American pressure can be forceful, even against friends. Indian policymakers must weigh their security needs against the risk of U.S. retaliation. The challenge is to protect national interests without triggering a damaging confrontation. Past experience shows that Washington will act if it feels core interests are threatened. India must navigate carefully, knowing the consequences of miscalculation. The stakes are higher than ever. India's answer is strategic autonomy, making decisions based on its own interests, not foreign pressure. Russia remains a crucial defense partner, supplying much of India's military hardware. This dependency can't be undone overnight. When pressed by the U.S., India relies on quiet diplomacy, explaining its security needs and emphasizing that the S-400 isn't aimed at America. Indian leaders argue that a strong, secure India serves U.S. interests in the Indo-Pacific. Abandoning the S-400 would undermine India's sovereignty and defense readiness. Instead, India may offer concessions elsewhere, more U.S. arms purchases or greater market access. The goal: preserve ties with both Russia and the U.S. without sacrificing autonomy. It's a delicate balancing act with no easy answers. The outcome will shape India's global standing for years to come. A U.S.-India trade war would hit far beyond government circles. Bilateral trade, now over $150 billion, supports jobs and businesses in both countries. U.S. tariffs would make Indian goods, textiles, IT, pharmaceuticals costlier for Americans, hurting Indian exporters and workers. Indian retaliation would raise prices on U.S. products like almonds and tech goods, squeezing Indian consumers. American companies relying on Indian software or components would face higher costs, impacting competitiveness. Farmers and manufacturers on both sides could lose vital markets. Beyond economics, people-to-people ties, students, professionals, families would suffer from a climate of mistrust. Decades of goodwill could erode quickly, making future collaboration harder. The human cost of political conflict is deep and lasting. Both nations risk losing more than just trade. The future of U.S.-India relations hangs in the balance. The best hope is diplomatic compromise. Perhaps a U.S. waiver in exchange for Indian security guarantees and more American arms deals. This would preserve the partnership and address both sides' concerns. A middle path, limited sanctions and ongoing talks could keep the relationship afloat but strained. The worst case, harsh sanctions, full-blown tariffs and a deep freeze in ties, undermining Indo-Pacific stability and empowering rivals like China. What's at stake is more than an arms deal, it's the trajectory of a defining 21st century partnership. Both countries have far more to gain from cooperation than conflict. Leaders must look past this dispute and focus on shared strategic goals. Statesmanship and flexibility are needed to bridge the divide. The world is watching. Can these two great democracies emerge stronger, or will a single disagreement unravel decades of progress? The answer will shape the global order for years to come.